What if our greatest heroes became our greatest threat? This is what NetherRealm Studios asked us when they released Injustice Gods Among Us 10 years ago. It's crazy to think how impactful this game was, being featured at EVO and being considered one of the best fighters of 2013 and one of the better comic book games out there. Where it succeeds for me is showcasing how powerful these heroes and villains are through their super moves. Today, we're continuing our NRS journey with all supers ranked by covering all of Injustice super moves, from the worst to the best.
Fight!
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to or welcome back to the channel. Today, we're finally entering the strange and unjust world of Injustice Gods Among Us. This game holds a special place in my heart for being why I got into comic books. Sure, the Arkham games got me into Batman, but this is where I really delved into DC Comics and lore. Another big appeal is that it's developed by the creators of Mortal Kombat, which is probably another reason that got people like me into the series to begin with. Enough background, and let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video. We're continuing all supers ranked and looking at the 30 super moves from this game. Like I did with the X-Rays and MK9, these are going to be ranked based on how creative they are, the pacing, along with how well they fit to the character, along with if it's a reference to a moment from a DC graphic novel. These are more ranked based on its presentation, not in terms of damage or utility, so my apologies I didn't clarify that beforehand. If there is one super I do rank low, I'll be sure to say something positive about it. Also, like MK9, some of these are just super powered moves the characters can do. All of the NRS supers find their real mojo MKX and onward. With that, charge up your meters, press those triggers, and let's rank all 30 of the supers from Injustice. So, which character has the worst super in the game? Taking the bottom spot for me is Harley Quinn. I've never been a fan of this one, just a hammer throw with a fake out punch leading to an explosion. I know some people like the joke of the punch, but like a lot of my puns, it's really not that funny. Though it's at the bottom of the list, it's just very meh. As you'll notice with Injustice 1 and even MK9, these aren't too special nowadays. Trust me, these really find their identity with the next 3 titles. Alright, for this next one, I'm going to show the super first, as a lot of the points I'm about to discuss will make more sense after you see it. So with that, let's get into number 29. Whip cracking into number 29 is Catwoman Super. I'm not the biggest fan of this one either. I think one of the biggest gripes I have is that it feels out of order. I always thought she should have started with the diamond dust, leap onto you, and then slash their face, which should have led to her throwing the opponent in the air to catch her with the whip, and then throw them down to the ground. I feel it would have greatly improved this super quite a ton. Alright, if you want to know why I held off on making this list for some time, is that almost all of these tie for a placement, as many of these range from okay to good. Like the MK9 supers, 1 or 2 factors determine where these are placed. So with that, let's keep rolling. At 28, with one of the more disappointing supers on this list, comes from the zombified Incredible Hulk, Solomon Grundy. This obscure Batman villain has a unique super, as it's the only one with a weird armor ability, making it useful for utility purposes. Unfortunately, in terms of presentation, it's extremely disappointing. Cutting them with a knife, throwing them, and then slamming their head with the tombstone he pulls out of their body is just okay, I guess. To show how much of a powerhouse he really is, I would have loved seeing him slam and beat the opponent to a pulp while saying the entire Solomon Grundy rhyme, but that's just me. Kinda disappointing from this odd fellow. Entering the 27th spot is a character I was totally unfamiliar with before playing Injustice, that being Killer Frost. This one is just very meh. I think the coolest part, sorry for the bad pun, is the icy spikes impaling the opponent at the start of the super. Other than that, it's just a basic Crusher super with icy spiky walls hitting the opponent. Though I find this one to be pretty bland and closer to the bottom of the list, unlike the character, it's not an absolute zero. Number 26, and we're looking at one of my favorite members of the Teen Titans, Cyborg. For as much as I like this character, this is pretty disappointing. It's just a basic beam super, something we've seen from almost every Capcom fighting game character. Even with the added shots of Cyborg transforming into a giant big cannon man, it's still pretty underwhelming. Sorry Cyborg, even with the upgrades, you're still pretty low on the list. Moving ahead one more placement and looking at another member of the Justice League, Wonder Woman. Sadly, hers is pretty disappointing. For how powerful and iconic this character is, her super leaves a lot to be desired. What makes this really disappointing is that she's really not that involved in this one, only responsible for the first and final strike, mainly with the other Amazonians taking over and attacking the opponent. Fun fact, this was actually altered before the final release, as her slash originally included a big splash of blood, which could have been changed due to ESRB purposes. Overall, this one could have been loads better. Soaring into the 24th spot with Hawkgirl. As you'll notice with many of these supers in this game, many go for a similar approach, which takes you to the air to do some damage. Of the ones where you're taken airborne, I found Hawkgirl's to be the weakest. You just get taken to the skies and then hit twice. That's it. Though I really liked the character in Justice League Unlimited, this super doesn't soar high for me. Let's look at the final DLC character from this title, the magical Zatanna. On the topic of lifting things and then putting them down, that is literally what Zatanna does for her super. Magic blasting them and then putting in some weird prism to have them crash land is pretty okay and has some nice flashy elements to it. Wish it really took more advantage of her magical abilities instead though. Not a super that really astounds me. On to the next member of the Teen Titans who got many people attracted into goth girls, Raven. With her design being one that kinda misses the mark, I mean it just looks kinda weird, her super is also pretty lacking. She just summons 3 demons to slash you and then Trigon blasts you with his eye lasers. Like I said about Wonder Woman, I really wish Raven participated more in this super instead. Imagine if she used some of her dark powers to just completely demolish the opponent, or some cool callback to Teen Titans. I think that would have been awesome. Overall, it's just okay. At the number which is the legal drinking age in the United States, 21 with Black Adam. For how powerful Dwayne Johnson is, this super feels like it could have been better. It honestly feels more like an enhanced command grab combo, not really a super move. As we'll see in Injustice 2, Black Adam gets a huge improvement and probably cracks the top 10 with his super in that game. Sadly, this one just makes the bottom 10.
Shazam!
Speeding ahead into the 20th spot is the fastest thing alive, the Flash. With this being one of the earliest supers we've seen at E3 2012, it got a lot of solid laughs out of the audience, which I can see why. Hitting them, building up a punch that requires sprinting around the world before they have time to react is pretty funny. Outside of that, it's just 3 punches, one at the start, and then one striking him up, and then one where he spikes him down. If it weren't for the cinematic shots, it would have been much lower on the list. Be sure to come around and see how much Barry improves on his super in Injustice 2. It's pretty godlike. At 19, we've got one of Green Lantern's villains, the yellow ring-wielding Sinestro. With the power of fear on his side, his super really doesn't take much advantage of that. Sure, it's cool to take them to space, slam 2 meteors into the opponent, then summoning a laser to shoot them back to Earth, but I wish it took more advantage of something based around his powers of fear. Outside of that, it's still a pretty cool super overall. Entering the 18th spot with Barbara Gordon, also known as Batgirl. With her being one of the more fun characters in this title, according to Maximilian Dude, dad at the FGC, her super is only okay. Strapping a wire to the opponent, flying into the sky with a nice shot of the moon to send them back plummeting down to the ground, capping it off with sticking some spikes into their head. For how brutal it is, it's alright. It's also the only super that can be performed in the air, so there's your little fun fact as well. Overall, not bad, but it doesn't soar any higher on this list.
Hold this for me.
Taking aim into the 17th spot is Green Arrow. Like Batman and Batgirl, this super powerless character does a great job standing out with his unique arrows. Although his super is pretty simple, using a couple of trick arrows, the shots, pun intended, make this a lot more fun to look at. It may not be a bullseye, it does at least hit its target with how fun it is to look at.
Heads up.
At number 16, we'll break you with Bane. This Batbreaker recreates his iconic moment from the Nightfall graphic comic, beating up the opponent, slamming them, then bending them over his knee. Outside of the context, it's very okay to look at and could be underwhelming if you're not a comic book fan, but this is perfectly fitting for the roided out jock with a gas mask. Hey, we're looking at the hero standing for truth, justice, and the American way turned dictator and main villain of Injustice, Superman. Like the Flash, this was one of the earlier supers shown off, and I find this to be quite a fitting and cool super. Though it's just 2 punches, who else has the strength to knock you out of orbit, fly fast enough to catch up to you, just to send you back down to Earth? No one except Superman. This one really packs a punch. Moving into the Netherrealm with Injustice's only guest character, Mortal Kombat's poster boy, Scorpion. I personally think he fits the universe pretty well, and his super is also pretty good. Teleporting them to Hell, which fun fact, increases Scorpion's power according to a Deadly Alliance bio card. Throwing his chains, catching them on fire, and then throwing them around is pretty nice. I like the addition of the classic Scorpion pose thrown in there when he summons the giant walls. Though I wish there was a little bit more inclusion of Inferno Scorpion in there. Besides that, it's not a bad one and it fits the world pretty well. At number 13, with the first Robin to become a true hero, Nightwing. Yet another super powerless hero with a pretty good super. Hopping onto his Tron bike to hit the opponent several times, then to strike them with his electric staff is pretty cool. Great use of the slow-mo shot and shot composition of the multiple strikes, jumping in the air and striking them. Though many may complain that it's a very simple and safe super, I think what makes this go up so high is just how well it's shot and its pacing. Way to go, Nightwing! Looking at another favorite villain of mine, Deathstroke. We've come a long way from his finishers showing off the smallest amount of what he's capable of. Now we've got him showing off his acrobatic fighting style along with his marksman skills. My only complaint is that his ender is kind of weak and could use a grenade launch shot to cap it all off. Besides that, this is pretty solid coming from DC's Terminator. Invading at number 11 is the superhero from Mars, Martian Manhunter. With his promise to defend Earth, he does by transporting the opponent to the Red Planet. Though turning into the opponent to hit them twice doesn't do too much for me, but what really gets it is knocking him skyward to where he grows to a giant to slam 2 giant rocks into them. It just segues and flows super well, and it's a nice way to cap off this super. Similar to what he uses to crush you, it just rocks. Hey, we're finally at the top 10 with the Dark Knight himself, the Batman, who was voiced by the late and great Kevin Conroy. This is the second draft of his super move, as the first one, highlighted above, was originally a counter-based move and was a lot less flashy. To make it more impactful and memorable, the team updated it with a variety of Batman's gadgets and the Batmobile. Well, if they were looking for something more impactful, boom, I think they succeeded. I know many complain that it's a bit over the top, but I think it's a good way to update it over the original take. I really don't have much to complain about on this one, I just think it's pretty good. Of the super powerless heroes, this is one of the best in my opinion. And speaking of Batman, we're moving on to his arch nemesis, the Joker. If you thought it was awesome to see Batman utilize his arsenal in a super, the Joker one-ups it with an awesome flow motion super. Pies, crowbars, a nice nod to his MK vs DC super, and an awesome Michael Bay explosion to wrap it all up. If you think that the Joker's super is awesome in this one, stick around to Injustice 2 to see how much they improve it. It's truly an awesome one. Way to incorporate a lot of what the Joker is well known for. So, way to have the last laugh, Joker. Freeing itself from the Phantom Zone and cracking into the 4th DLC character with the main villain of the Man of Steel movie, General Zod. This Kryptonian general takes Superman's super to a whole new level, flying the opponent through the moon and lasering them back to Earth. This super was so cool that this concept would be later updated for another Kryptonian in the sequel, so be sure to stay tuned for that in the Injustice 2 ranking. Guess you can say Zod really shot for the moon in this one and nailed it. Looking at the last of the 3 superheroes, Green Lantern. As we've seen in this ranking, many super moves take you somewhere to do the super move. But this one makes it interesting by taking you to Oa, the Green Lantern Corps's home planet. With the Lantern at their planet, their power gets stronger and he's able to draw his imagination to mess up the opponent. It's also pretty cute how Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern in Injustice, uses his imagination to use fighter jets and a giant cartoon hammer to beat the opponent. It's super fitting to the character and makes for a smashing good time. striking number 6 like lightning is Shazam himself. Our final super involving sending the opponent skyward, and this is definitely the best one. Knocking the opponent into a storm with 2 lightning punches followed by an elbow, grabbing them and then spinning them to build momentum to toss them face first into the ground is just so awesome. I feel the biggest missed opportunity and pretty saddening is that this does not include Shazam shouting Shazam to have lightning strike them down to the ground. If it included that lightning bolt, almost like Raiden's X-Ray and MKX, could have bumped this up into the top 3. Besides that, quite the marvelous super from the Captain. Finally diving into the top 5 with the last of the heroes, Aquaman. Little fun fact, this is my mom's favorite DC hero. She loved him pre-Momoa era, in case any of you were wondering. Anyway, talk about making an impactful super move. Flooding the arena, stabbing, and then summoning the Meg to eat you is downright amazing. Way to be trident and true to what makes Aquaman so great. Making their way into the 4th spot is the God of War, Kratos. Ares. Nah, damn it, stole the wrong one. This Ares, here we go. This villain to Wonder Woman provides quite the awesome super move. Summoning you to an ancient battleground covering the opponent with arrows to then grow to the size of a kaiju to crush you is extremely effective. Not much else to say besides it's quite the standout super. Like the arrows in the Black Rain portion of this super, right on point and hits the target.
There comes a giant fish!
Earning the bronze medal is Superman's nemesis, Lex Luthor. This is a unique take on the Spirit Bomb supers we've seen in other fighting games. Instead of gathering energy like Goku or Jago, we get Lex's satellite giving raw power to kill a Kryptonian, along with a nice startup animation similar to Sonya Blade from MK9. This just shows the raw power Lex is capable of. One final thing to say about this, and something I mentioned in all Kano finishers ranked.
Laser beam!
Our runner-up comes from the monster who killed Superman, Doomsday. If you ever wanted to see what brute force and anger can do for a super move, well, here you go. Slamming the opponent through the earth and then slamming them again is just super funny, and it shows how powerful Doomsday truly is. This always made my friends and I laugh whenever we saw this, and it's what makes it one of the more memorable and better supers in this game. Guess you can say this super is breaking new ground. Alright, come on, y'all saw this one coming. Our number 1 spot goes to the main man himself and Rob Zombie lookalike, Lobo. Probably the one super people remember the most, and for good reason. Implementing a lot of the character's ability and charm into one super. Running them over with his bike, shotgun blasting their face, burning them with the exhaust and giving them the finger. This one is also shot the most fun, including multiple camera angles with great pacing. Of all of the 30 supers, this is by far the best one in the game. Way to show everyone who the main man is, Lobo. And holy wow, that's all wrapped up. All 30 of the Injustice super moves ranked from worst to best. Now I know we aren't going to agree on this list, and I'd love to hear where you're coming from. Remember, my list is not the definitive list, it's just my opinions, and I'd love to hear where you're coming from. We're finally continuing all supers ranked with the rest of the NRS games. Personally, I found the first two of these games to be pretty challenging since each of their supers felt like a field test, seeing what worked and what didn't. You'll see how crazy these supers get on the next episode of All Supers Ranked. Speaking of, we are continuing the series with the next NetherRealm Studios title, Mortal Kombat X. So come back next time, February 27th at 8 AM for the full ranking. Guess you can say it'll get exciting looking at the upgraded X-rays. As always, thank you so much for your continuous support. My name is Nick, and have a smooth day.